Numbers. They shape the world around us. They shape our identity. A number can't lie, or at least it shouldn't. I am 15, I'm 160 centimeters high, or that's 5 feet 2 in imperial, or I call it racist. My grade starts with a 9, and we don't talk about that second number until we get to know each other a little better. Numbers label and introduce us to others, and they tell some of our capabilities too. My mother was good with numbers. She knew she had the numbers she needed, and she knew she was one number away from Tongji University, her ideal architecture school. She took the Gaokao on July 6, 7, 8, 1987. And the results? They were not as expected. Like the math section this year, the physics section made headline news that year. The numbers, they betrayed the class of 1987. Her school's average, 20. And her score, 40. But the passing score, 60. So the always perfect and all-capable physics representative of the class became a failure. She didn't attend Tongji University that fall, and instead, she joined a school that usually wouldn't have satisfied her appetite. For years, she was haunted by the test, literally and figuratively, waking up in the middle of the night with images of white test papers burning her sleep, mind and awake, finding few prospects. The Gaokao had her number, but it didn't know who she was or what she was capable of. The Gaokao failed to introduce her accurately. Fast forward to 2022, a lot has happened and the numbers on the headline are still as scary, but something has changed. I've currently applied for American high school, so sorry, BASIS. And though high school application isn't exactly the same as college application, it's just as dependent on the numbers. SSAT, TOEFL, GPA, all numbers, again. But here's the difference. Beyond those standard numbers, we'd be asked to write about ourselves. For me, I wrote about sitting at my piano, about my mom, my dad, and my cats, and I answered a myriad of personality and investigation questions. We'd also be asked to have things like recommendation letters, an activity you're good at sports or 3, and a great personality. Got it. Get the scores, be sociable, active, athletic, and have a great personality. I have at least, 3 out of 5, 60% passing, right? But it's not just about the scores. Certainly, scores are important, and they define our academic capability. But the process is not limited to that single definition of being capable. A definition not given in numbers. A definition not given in how many math and history questions I can get correct, or how many push-ups I can do. By the way, I can do 3, not actually 1. But it's about how you view music in your life, how you view friendship, how you embrace diversity, and all the different aspects of you that makes you who you are. You might feel that this process is similar, but there are differences. Firstly, though both scores are made to assess academic development on a numerical and predictable way, the grade point average, or GPA, is itself a different form of number than the finals and Gaokaos. Calculating your score with a set ratio for daily performance, minor assignments like classworks and homeworks, major assignments like tests and essays. The grade point average accounts for your endurance under pressure on a daily basis. On the other hand, in the public schooling systems, the finals determine your performance each year. And the daily grinding factors, however, they're neglected. The second difference is more obvious. It's between non-academic developments. School for us is school and then all the other societies, organizations, clubs, events, and various different opportunities outside of the classroom to develop yourselves. In public school, of course, we still have student council and clubs, but they don't matter to the colleges, or simply in front of the Gaokao. They aren't an extension of college application, and they aren't a pursuit of passion. They're simply a way for you to stay occupied. And finally, the most significant difference I would consider is between values and characters. The public school definition of a valid student is one that has no past records of school violations or no past crime records. So you don't smoke and you don't drink. It's a fairly low bar and a fairly permissive one that ignores any number of transgressions socially and personally. The standard fails to clarify the character and the belief of an individual. In other words, the Gaokao can't tell an admission officer what type of student will be joining their school, how they will interact with each other, and how they may change themselves and their surroundings, but simply if they are smart kids. In an international applications system, we'd be asked to write personal statements. It could range from a book review to a childhood story or an unspoken memory. Each essay and each prompt is a looking glass into an individual, valued for precisely that individuality. These pieces of narratives are put together to form a person, a full person. So when I talk about my application process, I don't talk about the scores, the numbers. I talk about figuring family relations through a personal statement. I talk about talking to the admission officer about experience falling off doing horse riding. And I talk about how I describe my cats and my cakes. And as I finish my application process, I feel really lucky that the admission officer on the other side of my application has looked beyond the numbers and viewed a pattern that is in me. It's not my place exactly to say that the Gaokao and thus the entire Chinese society is flawed. It has sustained us for the past 70+ years and overseen the greatest social and economic growth. Some of my public school students also say that it's entirely justified as it weeds out the less capable. But I can't help but also think about my mother and the numerous students who suffer from test anxieties and circumstance when they're told less than. The Gaokao is, of course, effective in its own way, but isn't necessarily good. We see news reports talking about students going to Tsinghua University, going to Beijing universities, but nothing is reported on the third tiers, the county universities, or even professional college and high schools. The lower numbers are neglected. And tragically, for about the first 18 years of an average Chinese student, it's centered around the 3-digit number of the Gaokao. And by the time when a student who's good at socializing, knowledgeable in the stock markets, and perfect at everything except geography receives his or her score, he or she is deemed less than those perfect kids. One number determining the first 30 years of a person's life. Is that healthy? The Learning Policy Institute explains that decades of research has shown the need of an education system that recognizes the connection between a student's social, emotional, cognitive, and academic developments, as well as mental and physical health. The international system recognizes this fundamental premise behind education and celebrates it through the application process. So my answer is no. Compared to a system that focuses on nothing but who a person is, the Gaokao is not as sufficient. And as I continue with my studying, I feel very fortunate that I know by choosing a path other than the Gaokao, I can get into a suitable enough university just by being me.